Have you ever noticed how certain thoughts don't ask for permission? They just show up. And worse, they sound like you. You're going to fail. What's the point of trying? You always do this. God isn't listening. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. If those thoughts were truly yours, why do they seem to work against you? Take a breath, because what you're about to understand could change the way you see your own mind. Most people try to get more faith, more discipline, more self-control. But the real issue was never a lack of strength. It was a lack of strategy. And Paul laid out that strategy almost 2,000 years ago. We take every thought captive to make it obedient to Christ. 2 Corinthians 10:5. That's not symbolic language. That's mental engineering. And before this is over, you're going to realize something concrete. Your mind isn't broken, it's conditioned. And what's been conditioned can be reconditioned. When you hear the word stronghold, you might picture something dramatic and spiritual, but in its original context, it's much more ordinary. A stronghold is an idea repeated so many times that it becomes structure. It doesn't feel like a lie, it feels like identity. This is just who I am. I always mess things up. Nothing ever changes for me. That doesn't feel like an attack, it feels like a logical conclusion, and that's exactly why it traps you. Paul calls them arguments, chaotic emotions, organized narratives. Every time you think a thought, your brain strengthens that pathway. Repeated thought builds a stable circuit. Stable circuits create automatic reactions. Automatic reactions feel like truth. Your brain isn't asking whether something is healthy. It's asking whether it's efficient. If it's been used before to explain your world, it will use it again, even if it hurts. Here's where awareness comes in. You don't react to reality. You react to your interpretation of reality. An interpretation is shaped by your dominant internal state. If rejection lives inside you, you'll see signs of rejection everywhere. If scarcity lives inside you, you'll see threat everywhere. Paul called that a stronghold. Today we call it a reinforced cognitive pattern. Same reality, different language. Here's what almost no one teaches. A thought can be automatic without being true. It can appear without having authority. When Paul says, take captive, he's not saying force control. He's saying observe, examine, submit. Science confirms something remarkable. The moment you consciously observe a thought, you activate the region of your brain responsible for choice and regulation. That creates distance, and distance weakens power. Notice this. You are not the thought. You are the observer of the thought, and that realization alone begins to dismantle the old structure. A man I worked with constantly repeated, "I always disappoint people." That sentence shaped his decisions, his relationships, his expectations. When something small went wrong, the thought reinforced his identity. So we did something simple. Instead of saying, "I always disappoint people," he began saying, "I'm having the thought that I disappoint people." It sounds subtle, but neurologically, it's revolutionary. He stopped declaring identity. He started observing a narrative. Within weeks, the thought still showed up, but it no longer ruled him. It stopped being a verdict. It became a suggestion. That's taking a thought captive. Paul says, we demolish arguments. Demolishing doesn't mean ignoring. It means rebuilding. The brain does not tolerate a vacuum. If you try to delete a thought, it will return. But if you repeatedly replace it with truth, new circuits begin to strengthen. For example, thought, "I'll never change." Truth, I am being transformed by the renewing of my mind, not as emotional hype, as intentional training. Obedience here doesn't mean instant perfection, it means consistent direction. In the wilderness, Jesus was confronted with thoughts. If you are the Son of God, the temptation began as an internal narrative, and he responded with scripture, not as ritual, as alignment. He didn't argue feelings, he confronted the argument. That's a trained mind. Think of a thought that weakens you. Now say internally, I'm having the thought that. Feel the space that creates. Now ask, does this align with what God says about me? Take a slow breath. That space you just felt. That's freedom beginning. And biologically, you just activated neural reorganization. Attention reorganizes. What you observe consciously loses its automatic grip. What you repeat intentionally gains stability. You're not fighting your mind. You're training the filter that interprets your experience, and filters can be updated. You're not weak. You're not failing spiritually. You're operating from learned patterns, and learned patterns can be relearned. God wouldn't command renewal without designing a brain capable of renewing. 2 Corinthians 10:5 isn't just a verse, it's a method. Close your eyes for a moment. Lord, help me recognize thoughts that don't reflect your truth. Give me clarity to observe them without fear, and give me consistency to align my mind with what is true. When you pray like that, you're doing three things: directing attention, setting intention, reinforcing alignment. Repeated intention strengthens neural connections. Stronger connections create new stability. New stability creates a new internal experience. Renewal doesn't begin when the thought disappears. It begins when you decide who governs. If this resonated with you, write, I choose to renew my mind. Because your mind doesn't need to be dominated. It needs to be trained. Today you realize that your mind responds to what you repeat, and that the teachings of Jesus aren't just inspiration, they are direction for your consciousness. They shape maturity, they build discernment, they develop a stable mind, one that isn't dependent on circumstances. But transformation doesn't happen just because you understand something. It begins with a decision, and it's solidified through small actions, repeated every single day. A video can awaken you, but consistency is what rewires you. That's how the mind is reprogrammed. That's how emotional independence is formed. That's how you move out of internal scarcity and begin to live with clarity, stability, and abundance of awareness. And from that abundance comes a lighter life, more inwardly prosperous, less controlled by fear, more aligned with purpose. Now here's the turning point. If you leave this moment and change nothing, your mind will keep reinforcing yesterday's pathways. And yesterday's pathways produce yesterday's results. But if you begin today, even with one simple step, a new structure starts to form. What you do in the next 24 hours begins shaping the direction of the next few months. If you want to step out of the anxiety cycle, if you want to anchor your mind in truth daily and build a life that feels steady, light, and inwardly prosperous, I've organized a practical path to help you do exactly that. This isn't about more information. It's about training. It's about guided consistency. It's about intentionally rewiring your mind. If something in you resonated with this, don't ignore that pull. If you feel ready to go deeper, access is available through the link in the description. Not because you need to buy something, But because this might be the moment you choose to begin differently, it's a next step. But it could be the beginning of an entirely new internal foundation.